What's going on? Good evening, good evening, good evening. Chris Jenkins, credentialed member for the media covering the Carolina Panthers for Charlotte Vibe. And once again, I do ask that you spare me a little with the setup that we have. Currently, your man is in Ohio. He's a brand new granddad, but I got to come online and continue the service because I am the man of the people. And hey, I always appreciate questions and comments. I work for you guys. I work for you guys. I work for you guys. So any questions that you have for players, coaches, things that you want to see, leave them in the comments so I can get those questions addressed for you all. So Carolina Panthers won today. They are now 1-2, first victory for a lot of these guys, especially this very young new coaching staff, Coach Rule and his team. So congratulations to them and to all you out there that support this team and are cheering for the Panthers as they now are 1-2 after a nice victory against the Los Angeles Chargers. Final score, Carolina Panthers 21, Los Angeles Chargers 16. Of this game came down to the end, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it. A few things that you're going to hear about from me that I'm going to talk about at the end. One is the players talked about a meeting today that they had earlier in the week that encouraged them to get to know one another, and they felt like that helped them today. As well as I'm going to talk about where do they go from here? Where do the Carolina Panthers go from here? But first thing I'm going to do is go over what we get to do every day after the game. It's a little different now with COVID, but I shouldn't be too mad because it allows me to be here and out of the game and still bring you out a lot of content, which is we talked to players and coaches after the game. Today, the first coach up, of course, was Matt Rule. So I'm going to go through each one. Matt Rule, Joey Slye, Ryan Burns, Teddy Bridgewater, Jeremy Chin, Mike Davis. Those were all the people that the media was afforded the opportunity to talk to after today's game. So let's go ahead and get started with Coach Rule, who opened his press conference with a statement of saying that he is excited for this team. He's very excited about the way that they played, specifically without Christian McCaffrey, without Russell Okung, without Kawan Short. And there's some things that he didn't like, some things they still want to work on. But he said right now it's not the time to do that. But he is super excited about the way that this team played without those key starters being into the game. And he said he felt a lot of relief, and he laughed a lot when he said that, which, to me showed how much relief and how exciting this is. And he talked about that locker room afterwards was no different from when he played high school football to college football to being in the pros. It's just a lot of excitement, and he's happy for the guys. And so he knows that for some of these guys, it's been 10 straight losses that they've had to deal with. So getting this monkey off their back was good. Felt like it was a little bit sloppy, but hey, they got the win. And that last play, if you're one of the people that saw my tweet about the cardiac cats, you're not the only one that had a little cardiac, because that play, I think everybody can admit, was set up pretty well. They would have had the Panthers on their heels trying to stop that touchdown, but fortunately, ball was dropped. Panthers did fall on it, and we were able to secure the victory. What thing that they do want to talk about, or they do want to work on from today's victory, was Coach Rule pointed out the turnovers were key. The turnovers were big. Anytime you have that many turnovers, you certainly put yourself in a great position to win. But they got to have touchdowns off of those turnovers. They had just field goals. Hey, granted, Joey Slye did his job, but you still want to get touchdowns when you get those turnovers and you get into the red zone. And he also talked about, hey, he gave Dante Jackson a little applause, if you will, for last week. You noticed he kind of ran out of bounds when he had that interception. Today, he stayed in bounds. I still don't like that a track star got tackled by a quarterback. I kind of felt like he should have tried to put some kind of move on him or something. But nevertheless, clap it up for the team victory, right? So Chris Johnson always tuning in. How you doing, Chris? Appreciate you tuning in. And appreciate everybody that's tuning in and watching these. And I always want to remind you all that if you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, that I encourage you to go on over to YouTube, because I'm able to see those comments a little easier and respond and answer any questions that you all may have. So again, Coach Rule, those are the summary of the media chat with Coach Rule today, post-game. Next up for us was Joey Slye, who had 5 for 5 field goals. He missed an extra point, but he did go 5 for 5 on the field goals and able to get 15 points off of that. Let me give Joey Slye deserves a graphic, right? So there's Joey Slye's graphic. Going perfect for field goals. And he was really, key for the Panthers getting that victory today. And I asked Joey after the game specifically about what his growth is that he would identify, his biggest growth from last year to this year. He says that in the offseason, he worked a lot on his mechanic, and not just his mechanics of kicking, but his manual recall of each part of that kick. And it seemed like he went more cerebral, if you will, on his processes this year and focused on honing that down. And he says certainly that helps. And when he makes these kicks like he's making today, it increases his confidence, which increases his focus, and that just leads to good things. So I don't know if Joey Slye got a game ball today, but I kind of feel like he should have gotten one because he did a really good job converting those field goals for us today. Brian Burns was next up talking to the media today. Brian said that, the guys were extra motivated this week going into this game because they knew they had a rookie quarterback. Now, last week, you have one of the greatest of all times, Tom Brady. And he says that, sometimes he feels like people just don't – you look too much at the stat sheet and say, hey, the Panthers aren't getting any sacks. The Panthers aren't getting any sacks. There's so many dynamics to going into that with guys having three-step drops, guys having quick releases, etc. But they knew with a rookie quarterback that if they could get to him and put a lot of pressure on him, that could really impact the game. And they felt like they had a chance to get to him, and they did today. And I'm going to go over some stats a little bit later on in this video, but that certainly helped. Oh, I forgot to take this graphic off. We are not talking about Joey Slye anymore, so let's go ahead and take that off. Sorry about that. He also spoke about the overall team effort going late into the game. J.J. Jansen making the play to stop the ball on the 1-yard line was huge. Almost wasn't enough, ironically, but that was huge. And the red zone issues, I'm sorry, that's Teddy Bridgewater comment there. But when asked about his best moves today or his go-to moves, he says he feels like his dip and spin move is something that is pretty unstoppable. And he went his bag a little bit today, was able to do that move and prove effective. All right, Teddy Bridgewater was up next. Teddy's comments, turnovers were absolutely huge on the road. These guys have been on the road for 2 weeks in a row and had to go all the way out to California. But he says one thing that we have to remember, these guys are playing in front of empty crowds, empty fields, and they need to create their own energy. And when the defense starts to create those turnovers, it helps them to create energy, which translates over to the offense coming out there and having a little extra pep on their step. And that helped. Now, he said they need to convert those field goals into touchdowns, but it helps greatly in getting victories like they got today. Now, red zone issues. As I talked about earlier, Joey Slye was 5 for 5, so that's great. Joey Slye did his job, but we really don't want, these are basically, I'm paraphrasing what Teddy talked about. They have to convert those red zone opportunities into touchdowns and not field goals, and simply feels that they just need to practice those situations more. Not saying that they haven't done a good job, but it's something they need to put a lot of attention to, and that as players, they need to realize that things happen a lot quicker in that red zone than it does when you're at the 50, when you're at the 40. And they need to speed up, he needs to speed up some of his processes, some of his reads, and that should allow them to capitalize a little bit more when they get into the red zone. But Teddy was the one who broke the news about the team having this meeting. I'll go ahead and go into that for you all now about spending time together. And he says that Mike Davis went and told us that basically what happened was during a meeting, Coach Rule said, hey, guys, come up, talk about what you've gone through to get here. Talk about why you're playing. And this was an opportunity for guys to be more personal, more open to the other players. And he says, this team wasn't a distant team by any means at this point, but they didn't have the preseason schedule that they normally have. And, normally guys go down to Spartanburg and they're able to spend some time in the dorms, really get to know one another. But when these are Teddy's words, I'm just paraphrasing, but when you get a chance to know more about the person that you're on that field playing against, putting your body at risk for, it just adds a little extra. And he feels like that was something that they really benefited from this week. And also talked about Coach Rule mentioning to people that, hey, we have been getting close, and being close is a good thing. But let's take that next step. Let's actually do it. And that seemed like it resonated with a lot of players, and that conversation Rule had with the players just last night. So, and again, Jeremy Chin was a guy that we had a chance to not look at, but talk to as well after the game. Then what he said is what Coach Rule said, which makes a lot of sense. And Coach Rule said it last week after the game when he asked about this defense getting more sacks, is defense playing more effectively? What is it going to take? And what he said was, let's not forget that there's a lot of new things going on, a lot of new coaches, a lot of new plays, a lot of new players, and giving these guys an opportunity to be in the system longer where they can play more reactively versus having to think. And not saying that he has guys out there that's just completely overthinking it, but they haven't been doing it that long. And a lot of these guys are doing it for the first time as a unit, that with time, things will get better. And Jeremy said that's all that's happening. They're just having that time and they're learning. And that's why they are getting better and better. So interesting note, there's food that is around me that I want to eat, but I'm going to stay focused and finish my post-game show with you guys and go over a few stats that I have been saving and want to go over. Let's start on the offensive side with quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. He did pretty good today, 22 of 28 for 235 yards, finished with 1 touchdown. Rushing wise, we had a pretty balanced rushing attack today. I would say we kind of struggled, but we were able to pull it together. But overall, as a team, as a stat that I just wanted to pull here, 21 of 81 for 3.9 yard average, no touchdowns, but I already spoke about it. We had a lot of rushing problems. I'm sorry, not rushing, red zone problems today that didn't result in touchdowns. And Curtis Samuels was the standout in the sense of, most unusual things, if you will, that happened today. He had 4 rushes for 7 yards. And some of you out there said that you were happy that they went away from it. But, I give the offensive coordinator a little kudos for trying to do everything that he can, leveraging the talent that this team has in order to not miss a Christian McCaffrey that wasn't available to play today. Going to the wide receivers, DJ Moore had a slow start. I think through the first half, he did not have any receptions, though he had a few targets. He was able to pick things up a little bit more in that second half, finished with 2 receptions for 65 yards off of 4 targets. So wasn't able to have that great game that we saw DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson having last week, with both of those guys going over 100 yards. But still, it was enough for these guys to get the victory. So defense was the big thing today. That it certainly was noticeable. First of all, we had our first sack of the day, of the season, and that was by Marquise Haynes. But overall, defensively, we were able to create a lot of turnovers. So we recovered 3 fumbles today. That was Tahir Whitehead, Shaq Thompson, and F.A. Abada. Congratulations. I don't think Tahir had a pass interference call today, which would be the first time this season that we were able to get Tahir off the field through the game without a pass interference. And we had a lot of contact. So a lot of those guys were obviously eager and hungry for the quarterback. We had 8 quarterback hits, 2 sacks in Dante Jackson, which I spoke about earlier, getting tackled by the quarterback. We had 1 interception. So this defense was able to play very, 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 very effectively. So again, Carolina Panthers are now 1-2. I believe they returned back to Carolina to play the Arizona Cardinals. That's who they talked about today, so I'm going to trust what the players were saying about that. Home game coming up this Sunday, and they're probably traveling back to Charlotte now, a lot happier. And Teddy Bridgewater said, hey, one of the things that he felt like coming out there was these guys were like, just like in the Jordan documentary where they were playing in the finals and he did not want to go back to Utah. He said, I did not want to have to take that 4 or 5 hour flight back to Charlotte with the W. So congratulations to the Carolina Panthers on coming out of the game today with the victory. So as I always say, I am going to go and answer your questions. I love talking with the fans. Man of the people, Cody, gave me that title. I appreciate you. I don't know if you're in here or not, but nevertheless, let's go ahead and get to some of these questions or comments, right? Because we got both going here. Ali Broderick, finally, that win will help us set the tone for my week. So, yeah, I think it'll help set the tone for a lot of people for the week because early on when we got Coach Rule, I know everybody wants to have predictions. I said, I just haven't seen enough yet. I haven't seen games. I haven't seen situations. I don't know. I could just talk about a speech, but I don't want to make predictions based off of a speech. And last week I said that I really like where this team is going, and they're 0-2, but I feel like they're pretty close. And I know a lot of people out there were saying that they weren't, but I feel like how could you say they're not close considering the circumstances in which they've had to get prepared for this season and with such newness. And I have been really impressed with the fact that they were down first 2 games, double digits, and nobody just checked out. Everybody still remained confident, and that shows to me that you're well coached. And I want to, and I may try to do it this week, spend some time talking with Coach Rule about his relationship with the players, the culture that he's trying to instill, and how he has noticed or what things does he use to indicate he's getting to guys. And I'll share that with you all. But yes, I definitely set the tone for a good week for a lot of people. Tommy Walker, first win since week 9 last year. Yeah, it's I don't feel the same exact excitement as players because I'm not out there getting beat up. But I tell you, when you go into the locker room, and I know we can't go into the locker room this year, and it's 10 straight games that players have lost, nobody is anxious for a microphone to come in front of them and be asked questions. But it is great to get a victory. They said, who would you guess was the most excited in the locker room? Comment, question? What do you got? But Trey Boston, Trey Boston was someone that everybody talked about being super excited in that locker room. And Teddy says that he thinks Coach Rule was holding a lot of it in, but certainly that's probably a party plane that's heading back to Charlotte right now from Los Angeles. Is it Ali or Ali? But I'm just going to go with Ali. At least we created some turnovers. Yeah, we created. I mean, Coach Rule said it, and you got to agree. Last week they had a bunch of turnovers and gave themselves a chance to win. But today they were on the other end of the spectrum with having so many turnovers created that you really, really got to win those games, put yourself in a position to do so, and they did. So hopefully that'll be something that this team will just continue to build on. And I really, really think that this team will continue to build on not only this game, but the lessons that they learned from the first 2 losses earlier this season. Sweet Caroline, yeah. I won't sing for you guys, but it would be nice to hear that song Sweet Caroline, which is played after the Carolina Panthers win at home. Tommy Walker talking about Derek Brown and how good Derek Brown is. Derek Brown is pretty good, and he is a big man. And his stats today, he had 5 tackles. 4 of them were solo. And a team leading 3 tackles for a loss. So, a young defense is certainly something that could stifle your growth or stunt your growth a little in the beginning. But a young defense that is good and comes together can give you some years of sustained success. And it seems like we could have some pieces that are setting ourselves up for some good sustained success. So yes, Derek Brown, I'll just paraphrase what Tommy said, is definitely a grown man. Another comment here, just proves you can't satisfy everybody, but I think a lot of people are still happy. Taylor Styles says a win is great, but they want Justin Fields. You can't please them all, right? Chris Johnson, I'm assuming your comments there, just again, laughing at Trey Boston being the hype man that he is. An extremely excited guy. And Teddy said, hey, this guy is not just emotional when things are good. He's emotional when things are bad. So you can always know how good old Trey Boston's feeling. And I wonder what song he's singing. I know I hadn't been on Instagram a lot this year because just been doing so much with my life changes. But, you know, Trey used to sing some songs and he would sing a bunch of songs. So, yeah, I may ask people more about things that Trey Boston did this week as he celebrated that victory. So I'll give you guys just another second to type any questions that you may have, comments that you may have about today's game. Make sure you stay tuned. Like the video. That's the easiest way to support my channel, and I appreciate it. You know, I'm the only independent media that covers the Carolina Panthers, and I've been doing it for a very long time. So your support is heavily appreciated and greatly needed to continue to do what I do and bring you a lot of inside information, access to the Carolina Panthers. So hitting that like button is appreciated. Subscribe to the channel. Bell notifications will help you all stay in tune with when I'm doing live shows. I have not still lined up with you guys and what I love doing the best, which is talking to these players one-on-one. But I can assure you that is, since I enjoy it and you enjoy it, that I am going to be trying to get players to come back on the show, interact with me, interact with you all. And again, just give you a chance to know them as a little bit more than a player and as a number. And I think those things are really fun. Yes, Tommy Walker, appreciate the support. Hit the like button. And Chris Johnson, always, man, met him before. Okay. Share and subscribe. So I appreciate you, Tommy, Chris Johnson, Taylor Styles. I'm hoping I'm saying y'all's name right. Ali Broderick, and everybody else who's tuning in. So tomorrow we'll get a chance to talk more with Coach Rule, and then Tuesday we'll be off, and then Wednesday we will get back into everything. So stay tuned. Carolina Panthers are now 1-2. Let me see if I can tell you guys where they stand in the division. I know my son's been excited about the playoff expansion, giving us an opportunity to make the playoffs, even more so than before. All righty, so NFC South current standings. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2-1. New Orleans Saints are 1-1. I'm assuming with them being 1-1 that they will play either tonight or tomorrow night. I'm not too sure. But the Carolina Panthers are 1-2. Technically in third place, could be in second place, depending on what happens with the Saints game that is either tonight or tomorrow. And the Atlanta Falcons are 0-3. We don't have any division wins. That will be something that could keep. Yeah, so the Saints, even if we're tied, the Saints will technically be above us because they got the division win against the Tampa Bay in week 1. So that is going to complete the show for tonight. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm laughing at some of the comments. But thank you all. Have a good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.